Can I get you anything?
We had dinner in Madrid, Irons, thanks. Mark, hike up to your room and get those papers on teletext. We can put in another couple of hours before turning in.
Right. Will you be working in the den, sir?
For a while. Nicky, how's Jesse?
I wouldn't know.
Tell him Mark's here from San Francisco. I'd like her to come in for a moment.
I really have something better to do, Dad.
I'll tell her, sir.
No, I'll tell her myself. You could start some coffee.
I'll get the den ready first, sir.
Jesse! Jesse, Mark's here.
Light switch didn't work. Must have stood on the desk and cut the wire.
You know, that's very smart. Our burglar bought himself an extra 4, maybe 5 seconds of darkness. Someone comes in, hits the lights don't work, and he sails right out that door. You buy that, Sheriff?
Maybe.
No, I can see the sheriff doesn't buy.
No, that's a very good theory, but why would he waste those seconds? I mean, why would he take that time to shoot Fred Irons? I mean, that doesn't make sense.
Got a point, Sheriff. Good point.
And you think it was more than a simple breaking and entering?
Well, we can tell better when you tell me what's missing.
Don't really know. I haven't spent enough time here in the last 15 years to remember. I suppose we can make out a list.
Well, that would be helpful.
If you could drop it by our office, we'd appreciate it.
And no marks on the door. You think the burglar had a key?
I would need one. This type lock can be forced. A plastic credit card.
Well, and if I'm going to stop being a absentee landowner, I better start with some new door locks.
It's very nice to have met you.
Right. Oh, thank you, Sheriff. I'll let you know how Irons is getting along as soon as my wife gets back. She went to the hospital with him.
He's getting along just fine. The doctor said... The doctor said Irons' wounds were just superficial. The bullet just...
Creased his skull?
Marvelous. That's exactly what the doctor said. How clever of you.
Jesse. My wife, Jessie Braddock, Sheriff Sam Cade, and my attorney, Mark Walters. How do you do? But maybe you two know each other already. Jesse was brought up just outside of Madrid.
No. I'm sure I'd remember. Unfortunately, I don't remember you at all. If the x-rays are negative, you could pick irons up in an hour. You're to call.
It's been an emotional night. Some of us
just have bad manners.
If Mr. Irons is feeling better tomorrow, I'd like to get a statement from him.
Fine, Sheriff.
We'll have him there as soon as he's able.
Yeah, okay. You've been very cooperative. Thank you.
Did you sell the teletext, Chaz?
But, Tom, you know what they
When
say.
I tell you to...
But, Tom...
When I tell you to do it, you get right on it.
Yes, sir.
I promised the sheriff a list of the personal effects in the room, Nicky.
And?
We have to let him know what's missing.
Yeah, so?
So dig up the insurance papers, talk to the maid, get the list.
I walked into the den and was going to straighten it up. I turned on the lights, and the wall switch didn't work. I flicked it several times. Obviously, it just wasn't working.
And why did he hesitate? You any idea, Mr. Irons? He said he had the gun leveled at you when you turned on the lamp.
He was about to shoot. And then, I don't know.
You seem to think he was about 25 years of age, Caucasian, had long hair, either dark brown or black, was wearing a suit and shirt and tie.
Was he taller or shorter than you?
A little shorter, I think.
Mustache or beard?
No, sir.
Do you remember anything about the style or color of the clothes? I know it's asking a lot, but do you recall if his tie was narrow, a long tab collar, wide or narrow lapels?
It was also fast.
Okay, Mr. Irons, that'll be all. Thank you. I hope your headache goes away.
Interesting, very interesting, Sam. Appreciate your thoroughness.
Well, it's my job, that's all.
Don't let Jesse's manner get to you. Things have been pretty strained around that house for some time. JJ, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, sure.
Rudy? Thank you, gentlemen.
Right.
Something wrong with the fella shakes hands all that much.
Couldn't lift a print that didn't belong to one of Tom Braddock's people. And there's the lab report on those tire tracks we made casts on outside the ranch house.
Yeah.
And I guess I must be talking to myself. Preliminary reports. Tire tracks outside the Braddock house seem to be standard van or passenger size. Tread mostly worn off.
Any black or brown long hair in the vacuum cleaner?
Not so far. Haven't had final findings yet.
Okay, you let me know, huh?
Sheriff, Mrs. Braddock would like to see you.
He wanted me to give you these.
Good.
It's a list of what was in Tom's den before and now, and a personal property insurance policy.
That's fine.
Have I completed my errand?
Yeah, any minute now. These lists are exactly the same. According to this, nothing's missing.
Well, you'll have to take that up with my husband.
Well, are you going to be living in Madrid now?
That's right. Is there any further need for you to come back to the ranch?
Oh, yes, until I complete the investigation.
And after that?
Jesse, this isn't San Francisco or New York. We're going to be seeing each other, whether we like it or not.
I thought I saw the last of you in a bus station in Pensacola, Florida.
That was an awfully long time ago.
Well, forgive me. But I remember a 4-day bus ride to be where you were and being told, not very politely, to turn around get back on the bus and go home.
But what you're forgetting is that in 4 days I was scheduled to leave for Korea, and I didn't want a 4-day marriage.
Or any other kind of marriage, it would seem.
You know, you seem to remember that day a lot differently than I do.
Apparently. Well, is there anything else I can do for you this morning, Sheriff?
No, I guess not. Where you parked?
Across the street. Why? Do you validate?
I'll walk you.
Well, Sheriff, I'm a hometown girl, remember? I think I can find my own way back.
I'll walk you. I'll be right back. You know, Madrid hasn't changed very much.
Well, as you said, it's not New York. It's not San Francisco.
You were gone when I came home. When did you leave?
I didn't go back. I went from Pensacola to New York.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, I wrote you in Korea, you know.
No, I didn't. You see, we didn't get very much mail for quite some time.
Why?
Well, I lost an engine over the Yellow River. It took me a few months to get back. It's just one of those things. Well, the old square hasn't changed. Same cannon, same cactus. It's all the same.
You know, this used to be the center of the universe.
Yeah, right here.
Remember Miss Ferguson? Erna Ferguson, Madrid High.
Geography, too, wasn't it?
Miss Ferguson used to say that because the circumference of the Earth was something like 25,000 miles, we can never be more than 12,000 miles away from home.
No, 12,500.
I've been a lot further than that, Sam. You too, I guess.
Yeah, me too.
Were you in a prisoner of war camp?
No. I wrote you.
In Madrid?
Yeah.
I wondered if you had. Sam, you're the last person in the world I wanted to see here. Same there?
Same here.
Are you married?
Nope. How about you?
Funny. Well, not so funny, I guess. Sam, do you ever hear Autumn Leaves anymore?
Adding machine, 4 or 500. Silver letter opener, at least 100.
I read somewhere that your average burglar is usually after drugs, cash, or easily transportable or easy-to-sell articles. Is that right, Arlo?
I guess you could say that. If this was a burglary, the sheriff isn't all that sure.
Well, it had to be with all the things scattered around.
Well, what's missing?
Oh, come on, Arlo. Irons came in on the guy before he found what he was looking for.
Then what was he looking for? Do you keep records, business ledgers someone might want, Mr. Braddock?
No, not here.
Mr. Braddock, I have to ask you one last question. Is something missing you haven't told us about?
No, absolutely not.
Mr. Irons, you know this room better than anyone. Can you...
Excuse me. The mail just came.
I was about to say, Mr. Irons, that no one should know the house better than the houseman. Are we overlooking something?
No, sir. Nothing I can think of.
Mrs. Braddock, can you think of anything?
I spend very little time here. Sorry.
Well, we'll just use what we have then. Thank you for bringing these by.
No trouble.
Do you mind if I just phone in?
So go right ahead, but use the phone in the family room. Now, what'd you get Nicky while you're in town?
Nicky?
Nicky's birthday. You were supposed to bring him a present while you were in Madrid.
I'll get it tomorrow, Tom.
Tomorrow is his birthday, Jesse.
Tom, I'm sorry. It just slipped my mind.
Went over all the personal effects, Sam. There's nothing missing.
All right, you might as well come in, Arlo.
He's your stepson.
Tommy,
What's all the shouting about?
It's, Mr. and Mrs. Braddock.
I'm sick.
Well, I guess I'll be coming on
trying
in.
to buy his respect. He's curly. He's spoiled.
Oh, shut up. I'm up to here with your temper. Now, you're supposed to be the mature one, Jesse, not Nicky. Now, you straighten out, or I'm going to have to make some unpleasant decisions.
It's from a small foreign-made automatic.
And this was taken from the woodwork in the den.
Yes. You see, after it grazed Fred Irons, it traveled in an upward path and lodged near the ceiling. You see right there, the groove markings are 1 to 1.5.
Any ideas to the manufacturer?
Got it right here.
.25 caliber Beretta.
Lab. Yeah, he's here. Nicky Braddock on 3.
Cade?
Sheriff Cade? My stepmother just killed my dad.
An unending, interminable argument about Nicky. Oh, Sam, that boy, that Nicky, he's impossible. He's vicious. And I finally had to get away from it all, so I came here to my room.
What time was that?
It wasn't long after you left. And I spent the rest of the afternoon here.
Or did you come out for dinner?
No, Irons brought it in.
Okay. Tell me what happened tonight.
Well, I came out of my room to go to the game room for a magazine. And the shot came when I was about 10 paces from the den door. I opened the door, and Tom was there on the floor, and a man was standing over him, a man with long hair like the man who shot Irons. And he looked toward me, then he turned around, and he went out through the garden door. And everyone came running in, Nicky and Mark Walters and Irons. Nicky thought I killed his father.
That long-haired man, did he have a gun?
Yes, I think so.
Good. I was only in the den for a couple of minutes, but I couldn't find a weapon.
Sam, you don't think that I'd ever...
Listen, I better get back. I have to take some statements.
Poor Nicky. He thinks I killed his father.
Dad had finally had it with her. He was just about to dump her, and she knew it. You know that fight they had this morning? It was light stuff compared to the way they took off sometimes.
Mrs. Braddock says it was the long-haired man. Probably the same man that shot you, Irons. The burglar.
Yes, sir, that's what she said. She was very upset.
Oh, yeah, sure she was. Look, Cade, there was no burglar. She did it.
You don't know there wasn't a burglar, Nicky, just because we didn't see one.
One more thing. Where's the gun?
The gun?
Well, of course. If Jesse had shot him, the gun would be somewhere.
I don't know. She put it in her pocket.
We've searched the house, Nicky.
Okay, Cade, I can't explain what she did with it, but just wait a second. Irons, tell the sheriff what you showed me.
Well, I'm not a detective. It was nothing.
Irons, it's evidence. Come on, tell him.
There must be some explanation. The door was locked.
And no one could have gone out that door the way she said.
Oh, come on now, wait a minute. There's a spring lock on that door.
Just a minute, Sam. You were only in that den for a couple of minutes before you went in to question Jesse. You couldn't have noticed it, but... Well, Irons is right. The burglar couldn't have gotten out the way Jesse said. There's a new lock on the door.
There's a dead bolt. Can be locked from both sides. It's been dusted for prints?
Yes, sir. Couldn't make anything of it, only smears.
Mr. Braddock had them installed today on all the doors.
And Jessie didn't know about them. She was in her room all afternoon.
There must be some other explanation, don't you think, Sheriff?
Yeah, possibly. If the burglar had a key, he could have locked it from the outside.
The installer only left a set of 2 keys when he put on the locks. I have them both. I was to have them duplicated for the family tomorrow.
I see. None of you touched this lock after the shooting?
Of course not.
Nope.
No, sir.
Who came in first after Mrs. Braddock?
It was Irons and I, and Mark was right behind us.
And who checked the locked door first?
I suppose I did.
And it was locked?
He already said it was.
Mrs. Braddock, can you tell me exactly what happened when you came in the room and saw your husband on the floor and the man ran out?
I knelt down beside Tom, and then Nicky came in, and Irons.
He didn't go near the outside door.
No. Why?
Mrs. Braddock, did you know there was a new lock installed on that door today?
No.
Jesse, nobody could have gotten out that door. Nobody.
Hey, Sam. You had a bunch of calls in there, half a dozen of them the district attorney.
Yeah, I'll call him back.
Pete gave us a final lab report on the trace evidence in the Braddock den.
Did we find any human hair samples, say, 6, 8 inches long?
No, nothing like that. Say, Pete did come up with a strand of synthetic fiber about that length.
Black?
As I recall, yeah. Why? What would that tell you?
It would tell me that whoever shot Braddock might have been wearing a black wig.
You still think it was a robber, do you?
I don't think it was Jesse Braddock, if that's what you're saying.
Here's something that might interest you. The ballistics report on the bullets taken out of Braddock's body.
Hey, JJ, if you were going to buy a wig, where would you go?
Well, it's not dang likely, but I'd probably start with checking the beauty supply houses and maybe one of them new men's hairstyling shops.
Good. Put a couple of men on it, will you?
Yeah.
Say, we're looking for a brown or a black shoulder-length wig bought by a man.
I'll go with the description Fred Irons gave me.
Hey, Sam.
Oh, how you doing, Paul?
Well, I'm bugged. I've been trying to reach you all morning. Called 6 times.
Oh, 6 times. Must be important.
Come on into my office, will you? You're not going to like this, but I'm bringing Jesse Braddock in for questioning.
What?
Sam, I just got too much flack all the way from the Attorney General on down.
Why didn't you ask me first, Paul? You don't have enough evidence to indict.
I won't know that until I talk to her, will I? Sam, there is talk. Now, I'm not going to pry into what went on between you and Jesse 15 years ago or whenever. But it's a topic around here. I'm going to do us both a favor. I'm going to take that heat off you.
And what do you have to go on?
Well, the whole story of the locked room. No one left that den, Sam.
And where's the murder weapon?
That I don't know yet.
Did you know that the ballistics show that the bullet that wounded Irons came from the same gun that killed Braddock?
No.
You didn't doubt Irons' story about the burglar now, did you?
Sam! Yes. Have them come in. It's Jesse Braddock, Mark Walters. Mrs. Braddock, Mr. Walters. How do you do? Thank you for coming. You will be representing Mrs. Braddock?
Yes. Do you think I need representing?
Jesse, Mr. Ross is only...
Did you tell him what I told you?
I've advised Mrs. Braddock that this is only formality.
Oh, a formality. Mark, it's a formality when it's someone else.
Just one more time, Jesse. Tell him what you told me.
Right, Mrs. Braddock. Your attorney is present. He will advise you. Now, would you like a cup of coffee?
I did not kill my husband. And I don't intend to explain any of this idiotic business about a locked room.
Cade, I want to see you. Mr. Ross, this is Nicky Braddock, Mrs. Braddock's son. Not Mrs. Braddock's son. I'm Tom Braddock's son. And this woman shot my father. Cade, you want evidence? Take a look in this. It's hers.
Is this yours, Jesse?
Yes?
Isn't that what you were looking for, Sheriff?
As I told Sam, the gun was wiped absolutely clean. There were no prints in the frame, the clip, or any of the cartridges. Very thorough job. You want to take a look here?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's our gun, all right. Check the registration on that, will you? Take a look.
Guess we got ourselves a case.
You want to take that to the jury on the evidence we got? Oh, come on now. Are you serious, Paul?
I got a woman with the motive, the opportunity, and the murder gun. Now, what does it take, Sam? You tell me.
Anybody could have planted that gun. Now, you know that as well as I do.
I think we have enough to make the charge stick. And believe me, there's plenty of pressure to push this to trial. Are you still hung with that burglar theory?
No, I don't think there was a burglary attempt. I think there was a murder attempt, and then I think there was a murder.
Because nothing was missing the first time.
Well, that's part of it. Fred Irons told me that he turned on that lamp. The intruder was about to shoot him.
Right, but he didn't.
No, he didn't. But I think it was Tom Braddock who was supposed to come into that room.
You think Braddock was the target all along? That's going to be hard to prove.
Takes only one thing. Time. It was the gun, Jesse.
I never saw it before.
You going to charge her, Mr. Ross?
I'm considering it. Meantime, I'd like Mrs. Braddock to stay in Madrid.
Yes, well, we'll be at the house.
What does that mean, Mark? How long am I going to have to stay in this town?
Until Cade and the DA say you can leave, Jess.
I hope I can stand it.
Nicky, do you want to step in my office?
Sam?
Yeah? What?
State lab wired us back on that trace evidence we submitted. That clump of reddish-brown dust we picked up with the sweeper turned out to be blood.
It was animal blood.
It's cattle. Mm-hmm. They figured it was tracked in on a shoe sole or heel. Heavy trace, like somebody had tracked through some of the stuff. Now, the footprints we found out by the garden were from ripple-sole shoes. Blood could have stuck on them easy enough.
Anybody in the Braddock house wear those kind of shoes?
No, sir, we checked with irons.
Okay, Arlo, take that burglar suspect's description to every slaughterhouse or packing plant in the area, right? Oh, also, have the FBI run a check on everybody in the Braddock house.
Everybody?
Everybody. Rudy?
Is she in jail?
The district attorney has asked her not to leave Madrid.
Nicky, how'd you find that gun?
I looked for it.
Well, so do we. We went through the house, through all the luggage. It wasn't there then.
Yeah, well, it was when I looked. You know, I saw this thing coming. So did Dad.
Yeah, what do you mean?
One day I walked into his office in San Francisco. Dad was on the phone arguing.
With Jesse?
Well, yeah, it had to be. I mean, they fought all the time. Anyhow, he slammed down the phone and he put his face in his hands like he was really shook.
Yeah, and?
Anyhow, just then, Mark Walters came in with some papers for Dad to sign. Dad said, I gotta get out of this, Mark. It's getting so I don't know when I go to bed at night whether I'll wake up the next morning. He knew.
Did he mention Mrs. Braddock by name? I mean, do you know for sure he was talking to her?
He was afraid of her. That crazy temper she has, he was afraid she'd do just what she did.
Well, couldn't it have been he might have been talking about business, you know, the pressures of that business?
No, Cade, no. It was her. You heard him. It was like that all the time, one step away from killing each other.
Nicky, tell me about your father's business. What did he do besides run the ranch?
I don't know. He never said.
Tom's business was business. He'd investigate companies with a poor cash position and a promising potential. Then he'd put them back on their feet. And there were quite a few of those companies.
A lot of pressure, Mr. Walters?
Whew. In a scale of 1 to 10, Sam, this was 10 pressure.
Enough to make a man wonder when he went to bed at night if he'd wake up in the morning? Hmm?
It wasn't pressure that killed him, Sam. It was a bullet.
Excuse me, sir. The telephone, Deputy Jackson.
JJ, this is Sam. He did? A wig? Well, where's he staked out? Tell Arlo to stay where he is. I don't want to move mate until I get there.
There's an apartment in the back of the building that the plant foreman usually uses. The supervisor tipped me off that a new fellow from out of town's been using it for the past 3 or 4 days. Comes in mostly at night. He's supposed to be a troubleshooter from the home office.
You been inside?
Yeah, for about 5 minutes. Saw a black wig and a pair of boots with ripple soles. Then the supervisor signaled me that the fellow was coming back, so I hightailed it out a window and called in.
Is he in there now?
Yeah, kind of strange, isn't it? You'd figure he'd have took off by now.
Oh, he's a pro, Arlo. He'd know that we had the plane and bus terminals covered.
Well, I guess he's just laying low then. Got himself a good cover. Now, the workmen have all gone home for the day. Place is empty, except for him. He's a medium-sized fellow wearing a... Holy smoke, there he is.
I
Pete, Rudy, and Rodriguez are on their way, but we can't let them get too far.
He's going for that van, Sam.
Hold it! Now go around back. Hold it right there.
Sorry, Sam. I guess I blew it.
I see. Benny Lucas was his name. I never heard of him. A dead man. A dead end, oh, Sam. It's hopeless.
No, not hopeless, Jesse. Just tougher, that's all.
Can you place him here the night Irons was shot?
Yes.
But not when Tom was killed? Well, where does that leave us?
Well, we're tracing the ownership of the van he used.
Sam, I want to know something. Where do you stand? Do you think I killed Tom?
No.
No doubts?
No doubts. You know, I was asking about Tom's business. I talked to Nicky and Walters, but...
Well, they ought to know. I was listed as an officer in some of the companies, but it was just a paper title. I used to ask Tom to tell me about his work. I thought it would relieve some of the pressure.
Then it was a high-pressure business, right?
Oh, very. But he'd never talk about it, not to me. Mark and Nicky, oh, yes. They knew all about it. I never did.
Nicky knew about Tom's business?
Oh, yes. Tom made him a full partner in some of the companies.
Oh, that's interesting.
Sam? This ties it, Sam. I have just come from your office. I saw the Braddock file. You traced the registration of the murder gun, and you never reported it to my office.
Well, I guess we just never got around to it, that's all.
Is there something incriminating about the gun?
It was Tom's gun. He bought it 4 years ago in San Francisco.
You see now why your overprotective friend was in no hurry to let me in on all this? No prowler brought that gun into this house. It was here all the time.
Folsom Prison, 1958, 64, armed robbery and assault with a deadly weapon.
Do we have anything else on him?
Went to work for Braddock, September 1965. From then on, no record.
What about Nicky?
Clean.
Walters?
Clean. And since you asked me to run checks on all of them, Jessie Braddock, she's clean too.
You still set on going, are you?
Oh, not if you can explain Arnold Lowell.
Who's that?
Big syndicate gun on the West Coast.
And he's company controller for Braddock's interests in San Francisco.
Tom Braddock's mixed up with the mobs?
And that's what we hope to find out.
In San Francisco.
Yeah, that's where the answer is. If I stay here, I can just look forward to Jesse being charged with murder 1. JJ.
I'll see her all through this funeral business for you, all right?
Thanks.
No. No, Nicky, no. Nicky, please don't go. Nicky, I didn't kill your father.
You've been killing him for years, Jesse. You just waited until yesterday to put a bullet in him. The DA thinks you did, too.
I don't care what he thinks. It doesn't matter about him. Oh, Nicky, I care what you think. Nicky, what happened? We used to be friends.
And I used to be 14 years old. That substitute mother business doesn't make it anymore, Jesse. I saw what you turned him into.
I wasn't the one, Nicky.
Didn't he give you everything you ever wanted? I'll see you in hell, Jesse.
Send them in.
Mr. Lowell, I'm Phil Torrey, Justice Department. This is Sheriff Cade, Deputy Davillo.
I think I told you all I could over the telephone.
I thought you'd be closed today, Mr. Lowell.
Oh, yes, well, we mourn inwardly, Sheriff.
Oh, I see.
The sheriff wants information on the Braddock Enterprises in which Mrs. Jessie Braddock has an interest, Mr. Lowell. I'm sorry. Those books are not available.
No way?
No way.
We have an authorization signed by an officer of the companies listed, ordering you to make those books available to us.
What officer?
Jessie Braddock. Now, suppose we get started, huh?
This Stillwell Land Development Company doesn't get us anywhere.
Just to Jefferson Engineering to Consolidated Growers, and then Arroyo Meat Products and...
Arroyo Meat Products?
Yeah.
Let me see them. Arroyo Meat Products, Madrid County. So Braddock owned the slaughterhouse where Benny Lucas was killed.
Yes, she's in the bedroom wing, sir.
Thank you.
Nicky? Mr. Walters?
Mr. Walters, certainly. Nicky was just moving out. I was going to take him to the airport.
Would you ask him if we could have a few minutes, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, Sam.
Jessie, I'm sorry about what happened at the funeral home today.
I am, too.
Oh, good evening, Sam. Rudy?
Evening.
Sheriff, are you really going to need me for this? I was just about to leave.
Yes, I really need you, Nicky. Why don't we sit down here, huh? Please. You know, I was in San Francisco, and I kept hearing about these pressures that Tom Braddock was under. And I found out.
You found out what?
That he was afraid to go to bed at night and not wake up.
And with good reason.
That's right. You see, the day Tom Braddock left San Francisco, he was a dead man. Have you read the corporate charters, Jessie?
No, never.
Well, Mr. Braddock bought, sick companies, poured money into them, reorganized them for the people that he worked for.
Well, what do you mean, worked for? No one owned Dad.
Oh, yes, they did. The syndicate had your father right by the throat. Not at first, mind you, but gradually.
I don't accept that. Tom Braddock was the most honest man I knew.
Mr. Walters, it takes only one yes to cross the line.
Tom Braddock said yes to the syndicate 8 years ago.
Now, wait a minute. Are you saying my dad was involved in a syndicate operation?
Money from skimming, gambling, drugs, prostitution. Dirty money put into clean business.
Laundering. And your father was the brain. Well, he was pulled into it by somebody he trusted very much. And then when he tried to get out, that very same person he trusted signed the murder contract.
You found this out in San Francisco?
See, the corporation treaties told us who would get hurt most if Mr. Braddock pulled out, and who was the figurehead behind Arroyo Meat Products Company.
Now, what has a meat packing company got to do with Tom Braddock's death?
The president of that company authorized Benny Lucas to use the plant facilities.
And brought him here to Madrid?
And gave me your husband's own gun and planned the burglary.
Well, then, the burglary was to have been Tom's murder.
Until Irons walked in by mistake.
See, the second time it worked like a charm. You walked in. All somebody had to do was just lock the door on the inside, and you were set up.
And who did that?
Ask Nicky.
Nicky?
Nicky, who pointed out to Irons that the den door was locked? Who suggested Jesse's room be searched for the murder gun?
Relax, Walter.
Cade, the den door. Mark didn't have a key.
When Irons locks up at night, the keys go into his jacket pocket, and the jacket goes on a peg in the pantry.
So Mark used the key after Irons turned in?
Mm-hmm.
He unlocked the door for the killer.
And locked the door afterward. In the excitement, the keys went back in the jacket. That was that.
I don't know what can be saved from any of the companies. But I think I owe it to Nicky to go back and protect what I can. I'm all the family he's got now. He used to be a nice boy when he was about 14.
What about the ranch? What are you going to do with it?
Are you asking me in your slow mustache twirling way if I'm coming back?
Yeah, I guess I was doing that.
Well, I'll give you a feminine answer. Maybe.
You know, Madrid's going to miss you.
Oh, got along without me just fine for years.
Now, this time you touched it, Jesse. It's going to miss you.
Oh, that's very nice. Of Madrid.
Well, it's better than the midnight bus from Pensacola.
A whole lot. Goodbye, Sam.
Goodbye, Jesse.
Sam, you never answered. Did you ever hear Autumn Leaves again?